So starting the test drive here in this Prius, this thing gets up to speed pretty quickly. And I just have it in normal mode here, but with the CVT and having just the torque from the electric motors, and then on top of that, I mean, you have 194 horsepower combined. That's quite a bit for a vehicle this small. And just how it pairs so nicely with the CVT, it kind of whines at you, but it's quick for what it is, very quick for what it is. Now, of course, the driving dynamics with how these are made, the steering is a little bit, it's not flimsy, but it's light, let me put it that way. But still easy to control. It's just something that kind of noticed there. But I have the max regen on. I'm gonna put it into the normal drive mode and then give it a little something coming out of this corner. So again, for what this car is, pretty quick. Man, I've said this in the past few Toyota reviews that I've done. This new cruise control is so just mind-boggling to get going. But once you figure it out, it makes sense. I'm just used to it being easier, where I could just hit the cruise control button and everything was pretty much already ready to go. But here I have to be sure to have the lane centering on and then turn the actual lane keeping system on. But I mean, if you're used to driving this thing, it's not gonna be a big deal. It's just, for someone who drives as many cars as I do, that's something that I've noticed is not as easy as it usually is. But overall, just the feel of this car, I see why I haven't been able to review one at the John Roberts Toyota store in so long, because as soon as they get them, they're sold. And these are relatively inexpensive for what they are. The space in here has come a long way. It's pretty good for this to be a car that gets 50 miles per gallon. And again, these are used for commuter purposes a lot, but I wouldn't mind taking this on a longer road trip. And furthermore, it's just incredible the fuel economy that you get with something that can also be pretty quick when you need it to be. Now, one of the cool things about these is when you're not giving them power, especially with the CVT, it keeps that paired with the engine, the entire setup, it stays very quiet. So I can hear the engine just a tad, but most of the noise is coming from this rocky road here. And even though it's extremely windy out, not hearing a lot of that now, but we'll test that out when we get on the interstate. And forward visibility is pretty good. The gauge cluster kind of intrudes on that a little bit, but not really anything to complain about. It's not really messing with me, but it is there. And it makes it almost feel like a heads-up display, so it was smart how they did that, but it can be a bit distracting. But where it's right in front of you, you can still see the road, pay attention to what's going on. So I feel like they thought of pretty much everything in this car. And it's just come a long way from the older Prius, I think. And the older Priuses were actually very good. But this is, it's pretty much exceptional. But to be the name brand hybrid vehicle that everyone knows about, you have pretty high standards when it comes to how you make your vehicles. Now we're gonna put it in a sport mode, see how it reacts there, and then floor it getting on the interstate. All right, here we go. Wow. I mean, the thing is quick. Now, it doesn't like getting fast, but it can get fast. Oh, that was pretty funny. Let's put it in the eco mode and then turn the safety suite on here. Now, I will say, it's just a very impressive car. I mean, you get up to speed quickly when you need it. You're pretty much fuel efficient the other 98% of the time when you're just driving around town or just cruising. And I mean, you have Toyota Safety Sense, which is phenomenal. The lane keeping system, the adaptive cruise control. This updated infotainment system, it's still, Toyota's audio systems are not the greatest to look at, but they do everything that they need to do, and they're very simple to use. HVAC controls I like. This feels like what a Prius always should have been. But I mean, the Prius has always kept up with the times, I think, in terms of just, you know, you had the speedometer right in front of you, even back in the 04 models and things of that nature, and something was over here. There was just so much going on. But you still have that same futuristic feeling here. It just makes a lot more sense. And I feel like it's a lot more refined, just with the features that come on it, how it drives. Of course, the fuel economy is still spectacular. But this is something that I would not mind buying for myself, especially if I get it for a good enough price. And these have been priced pretty well. Now, of course, they're not as cheap as they used to be in 2004. So if you're going to compare it to that, I mean, it's not a fair comparison, but just with what you get here, it's just a very impressive car. Probably about a 9, it's about a 9.8 for me, just off of my first impressions driving this thing and getting a feel for it. I mean, I can't find anything to complain about, really. They just did a great job with this car. And with all that being said, this will bring me to the end of my review of this 2023 Toyota Prius in the XLE trim level.